Today we see magnates, visionaries, and influencers showcasing their perfect lives on social media. Luxurious trips, toned bodies, sophisticated dinners, with millions of followers and the approval of everyone. But does this popularity on screen mean divine approval? Jesus said, "The first will be last, and the last will be first." Matthew 20:16. What does it really mean to be the first? Not always are those who are in the spotlight on the right path. In fact, the Bible warns about three types of people who are exalted by society, but in the eyes of God, are heading toward destruction. Throughout this story, we will explore who these three types of people are, what the scriptures say about them, and how we can avoid falling into the same traps. The first type may seem harmless, but carries a very silent danger. But before we proceed, leave your like, as it helps our video reach more people who need to hear and see this. The proud and arrogant. Pride is one of the most treacherous feelings a human can carry. It disguises itself as confidence, strength, and superiority. But in reality, it's a trap that leads to downfall. The story of Nebuchadnezzar is a classic example of how arrogance can destroy even the most powerful. Nebuchadnezzar was a magnificent king. His empire was vast, his fame spread across the land, and his wealth seemed infinite. He believed all his success came from his own strength and intelligence. In his mind, there was no one and nothing above him. Until God decided to teach him a lesson. One night, Nebuchadnezzar had a disturbing dream. He saw a gigantic tree that reached the heavens, but suddenly the tree was cut down, leaving only its roots. Confused and fearful, he called upon his wise men to interpret the dream, but none could. It was then that Daniel, a servant of God, revealed the meaning. The tree represented the king himself, who would be brought down due to his arrogance and would live like an animal until he acknowledged that true power belongs to God. Initially, Nebuchadnezzar ignored the warning, but a year later, as he walked through his palace and admired his grandeur, he proclaimed, "Is this not the great Babylon that I have built by my mighty power and for the honor of my majesty?" Daniel 4:30. In the very instant, a voice from heaven announced his downfall. He lost his sanity, was cast out of the palace, and spent 7 years living like an animal, eating grass in the fields. Only after acknowledging the sovereignty of God, his sanity and reign were restored. He learned in the hardest way possible that pride goes before a fall. This story teaches us that no matter how high a man rises, if he forgets God, his downfall is inevitable. But if pride can lead a man to the depths, what happens when love for money becomes a person's only motivation? The lover of money. Money, when used wisely, can be a powerful tool for good. However, when it becomes an obsession, it can corrupt the soul and completely pull one away from God. The Bible presents a classic example of this danger in the story of the rich young ruler. This young man was a man of possessions and position. He followed the commandments from his youth and believed he was on the right path to inherit eternal life. However, when he encountered Jesus and asked what more he needed to do, he received an answer that deeply troubled him. "Go, sell all that you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." Mark 10:21. The young man's reaction was immediate. He became sad and walked away, disheartened, for he had many riches. His attachment to money was greater than his desire to follow God. He could have been one of the disciples, witnessed miracles, and walked by the side of the Messiah, but instead he chose his fortune. This story teaches us that the problem is not the money itself, but the love of it. When wealth becomes an idol, it takes God's place in a person's heart. The Apostle Paul warned, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." 1 Timothy 6:10. And how many today live exactly like this? Driven by greed, they sacrifice principles, relationships, and even their own faith for a little more fortune. However, there is something even more dangerous than greed: the religious hypocrite. Hypocrisy is an invisible poison. It gives the false sense of holiness, but inwardly corrodes the soul. Jesus, in his ministry, spared no words against this type of person. Among the Pharisees, he found men who lived by appearances, but whose hearts were far from God. The Pharisees were respected religious leaders. They knew the law of Moses and followed rituals meticulously. However, their zeal was superficial. While rebuking others for minor flaws, They hid sins and injustices within themselves. Jesus called them whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but full of dead bones and impurity inside. Matthew 23:27. A clear example was when they brought a woman caught in adultery to Jesus. They wanted to stone her based on the law. However, Jesus responded, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." John 8:7. At this truth, one by one, the accusers left, for they knew their own hearts were filled with sin. This story teaches us that God is not impressed by appearances. He sees what is hidden and judges the heart. Many seek recognition for their supposed piety, but forget the essential, to truly love God and their neighbors. Congratulations for reaching the end of this video. You are a person of success and deserve all the support in your spiritual journey. Comment, "I made it to the end. I am persistent. I will succeed." Pride, love of money, and hypocrisy are traps that can take anyone away from the true path. But there is hope for those who recognize their mistakes and turn to God. Also, take a moment to watch our recommended video on the final screen, and don't forget to leave your like. May God continue to abundantly bless your prayer life and strengthen your connection with Him until the next video.